license for metabolic balance in Canada. Vera has successfully trained and supported plenty of metabolic balance coaches since 2001 in Canada. She holds a master's in economics from the University of Applied Science in Germany and a bachelor's of arts degree in sports management. And today we're going to talk all about metabolic balance, which I have been talking about for months now. And this is an international program that indirectly addresses some of the biggest health challenges in the world today. And of course, it helps you to lose weight. So, we're not going to make any medical claims here, but we may speak about some of the metabolic diseases. We do not diagnose, cure, or heal disease. You have to speak with your own health practitioner on if this program is right for you. We just may reference some of these metabolic diseases that are so prevalent now in the world today. So with that, welcome, Vera. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so much, Sandy. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really looking forward to speaking with you today.
Yeah, let's take the mystery out of metabolic balance because really there's nothing really like this program, and that's what kind of set me off on I think this is something I need to talk about on my podcast.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, and that's totally true. You just can think about your fingerprint. Your fingerprint is completely unique, and so is our meal plans, right? The approach that everybody needs different nutrients, different amounts, and different nutrition basically to address the needs um, perfectly.
Yeah.
So, and that's the whole beauty about the program. It really is truly unique and individualized for each client.
Yes. Yeah. And I noticed that because it took me a while, but I did do it myself. So, and I do believe, and, I've been a registered holistic nutritionist for a while now, and I like to try things before I recommend them to my client. Of course, it's not the same for everyone. However, it's important to understand it from a personal perspective. So, I'm going to start off first by asking you what set you off on this path for metabolic balance?
I literally was a client myself because I wanted to lose weight. I tried everything, nothing worked. So I got introduced to metabolic balance on a birthday party from one of my friends, and she told me about it. And I totally thought about, wow, this makes so much sense, and I'm going to try it. And it worked amazing. And then I decided to become involved with the company, and that was actually, and just I have to correct you, the whole program was founded in 2002, and I am in Canada since 2011. So you missed one,
Yes.
the number one.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
wasn't, yeah. So just to make that clear, but yeah, and I was really successful on it myself, and then I just wanted to spread it to my loved ones, and that's how it grew.
Yeah. I'm pretty passionate about it as well because and well, my story is actually I'm pretty transparent with my story. I just turned 53 a week ago, and probably in the last year and a half or so, I have found my weight really get away from me. And it's never just about the weight, right? Like, I noticed some very specific changes in my body as a 53-year-old woman who is about to go through menopause. My waist was getting bigger and bigger. And I'm like, what is going on? Right. So, maybe we should first talk in general. This is just a discussion about some of the biggest health challenges in the whole world today. What's going on, right? Like, what does this big waste mean?
So I think that nowadays the lifestyle, that's the part that needs to be fixed for people. Like the understanding what's happening in the body when you eat all day, even if it's healthy food, but you snack all day and then you most likely, take supplements and think you have the little quick fix with the pills and all the necessary vitamins and what else, right? To just be healthy, but it's not. Like the main fuel for the body is and will always be the natural whole foods. So having the pre-packaged and processed foods all day, the fast foods and availability everywhere certainly makes a big difference in the people's health. And that's all over the world, right? It doesn't matter where you are. And by the way, Metabolic Balance is also in 35 countries. So there is license holders like me everywhere. So, and the whole world is facing the same problem. So it's all about a lifestyle change, and that's what we really target to.
Yes. And then there are also other changes when our bodies are changing, such as mine as a midlife woman who's about to go through menopause. And the facts
Right.
are the facts. I can't, so I do live a healthy lifestyle. I do eat whole, real foods. And this is when, it's almost like I had to go through that period of admitting that even though I'm a nutritionist, things can go wrong and things can get away from me as well. And what worked in my 40s and even up until I was 50 didn't work for me anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So I think this is the key. So you can be really healthy and eat a whole real foods diet. I exercise. I've been working with a personal trainer for almost 5 years, but the facts are the facts. Something was changing within my body, even though my lifestyle was not, right? And so herein is why I thought, metabolic is not a diet. I don't want to go on a diet. I don't like a usual typical diet. That was not for me. So, let's talk about some of the big, I guess, health concerns in the world today, like type 2 diabetes, right? That's on the rise.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all the metabolic syndrome basically, right? And that all
Yes.
they basically like you get that from the wrong nutrition, literally. It's just plain and simple it
And
because
habits. And
yeah,
habits.
absolutely. And it's slow. It's coming through the back door, right? So all of a sudden, oops, now it's too late, right? Because you think you get along with it, you're young, and then the years pass and you didn't change your habits. You sat on the couch and ate snacks or whatever, prepackaged food. And yeah, all of a sudden you're type 2 diabetic or high blood pressure or whatever it might be, like all those uncomfortable inflammation things. And it really is a lifestyle. Like, obviously, good sleep, healthy food, exercise, like mindfulness, no stress is like those things are the key to a healthy life. So there's
Yeah,
not just nutrition, it's a whole combination of everything.
absolutely. And so for anybody who's listening, if you find that you are healthy, you do all that, you meditate, you walk every day, you exercise, you do weights. I'm always a big fan of lifting weights. You do all these things, but your waist is getting bigger. Your blood pressure is increasing. Your weight is getting heavier. And you're maybe noticing your body composition is simply changing. So these are pretty big clues that what you're doing is not working for you anymore.
And you know what? I just would like to give out a little tiny peek here already. I think the most important, not the most, but like there's two components to metabolic balance. That's one, the individualized food, of course, and the quantities, but also our 8 golden rules. And those rules they are totally open to public. Like you can read them, you can get them
Yes.
anywhere. You don't have to even buy the meal plan, right? Or the coaching for just getting those rules, because those are the ones that make the difference. And I'm happy to share them here because obviously our goal is to help everybody feel amazing and being their best selves.
Yeah, let's do that because I believe that this is why, and, you know, I'm gonna I'm gonna let this out. I don't talk about how much weight I lost. I feel that's very private, personally. And the reason I don't talk about the actual weight is because it's not really about the weight per se. I can tell you in the major measurements, so, your waist, your hips, your calves, your thighs, all of those major measurements, I've lost over 8 inches.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's much more important where you lose them than what the scale says, right? Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, because you, you know, okay, so there's that. I've also lost 3.4% total body fat.
Yay, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Wonderful.
But Vera, I mean, let's let's lay down the facts. The visceral fat. So this is the fat that surrounds your organs. And this is one of the major reasons why obesity is actually a major cause of some of the major diseases.
Yeah.
That visceral fat. So mine was just over in terms of the acceptable range. So I was heading into dangerous territory, and no workouts were going to take that away. I
Yeah.
don't care if you are the biggest gym junkie, exercise alone will not fix a problem such as this. It
Right.
has to be done with food, as I always say, food as medicine. It's not actual medicine, but food can be medicine.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
my visceral fat is now in a healthy range. And that to me, and my waist to hip ratio, right? So, do you want to talk about the waist to hip ratio a little?
Well, we can certainly, yeah, talk about it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's literally what metabolic balance helps to address. Absolutely. And that's also what the doctor who founded it in Germany, he really targeted to prevent his patients from getting those imbalances through the wrong nutrition. So he really developed the individualized approach to help, and yeah, and he got just really really successful because just the weight just dropped, and especially in the middle part, right? So,
Yeah.
and with that gone, like all those clients or patients, his patients improved in health. Of course, the quality of life, it changed big time, and then it just got such a successful program all over Europe, and also spread into the other parts of the world. So I'm really happy that you also experienced that that part, the middle part of the body where really it gets dangerous,
Yes.
improved so much for you. I'm glad.
Yeah. So, if you're not sure, take your waist measurement divided by your hip. Okay. And if you're not sure, you want to be at a ratio of under 0.85. You want to
Right.
be under 0.85. And when I personally did this, I was right at 0.85. So I was like one of those people that was on the cusp, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's important to let people know that that's something that you can check right now. You can check that and see if you're, under 0.85, then, that's okay.
Yeah, and also when you get your meal plan, obviously we have to collect a few things, also your measurements, and we also take the belly because it is an indicator what foods are gonna end up on your plan or not. Because the measurement, that's one of the most important measurements. It doesn't
Yes.
matter if your upper thigh is big because that's certainly not where the dangerous fat is located. So
Right, right. All
um,
right, so let's get into the 8 golden rules because I think that this is what has helped me. And actually, I stopped this. So I started the first week of November. We are now recording this in the third week of January.
right.
And the first week of November, I did it very strictly. And there are 4 phases. So I did phase 2 very strictly for 2 to 3 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I actually did the maintenance and I was kind of done, but guess what? I never stopped. And all throughout Christmas and
Yeah.
New Year and my birthday, and I am continuing to go down just a little bit without being on the program officially anymore.
And that is exactly what the goal is. We would like to educate the clients with the 8 rules, give them the 8 rules as a guideline, as a roadmap. And then after they finish the strict phase, they will never forget those rules. And they are actually really easy to follow. And that's, yeah, right. I love well, we're gonna talk about those rules, but I have one example that I love the most. I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, just gonna share the
Yeah.
rule. So we have one of our rules is that you should eat or begin every meal with 1 or 2 bites of protein first, simply because you give your body the signal that you don't necessarily need as much insulin, because it's not carbohydrates that come in, it's protein, so insulin is not needed. And my slogan that I always say is, so imagine you have ice cream, just order a big chunk of cream and have the cream or 2 or 3 bites of your cream before, and then everybody says, why I can have cream and cream and ice cream, or even cream and cake, like that's something amazing, you know what I mean? So it's just yeah, a few fun facts basically that help
Yes.
to maintain and to guide people. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go. Let's go with
Okay.
those and let's talk about those 8 rules because you already mentioned the first one. The first one is start every single meal with 1 or 2 bites of protein,
Yeah.
preferably 2 bites of protein, and that's almost like a buffer, right? For that glucose spike too.
Absolutely. Exactly. That's it. Glucose and insulin, it really is a buffer. Yeah. And that's what we want. We want to keep the insulin levels low, because once the insulin is active in the body, all the other hormones shut down. So if we have insulin active, no weight loss, nothing can work pretty much. So our goal is keeping the insulin low. And that's why we also only suggest low glycemic load foods.
Yes.
We only allow 3 meals per day. There's no snacking in the strict phase for metabolic balance at all. 5 hours in between. That's another rule. So in those 5 hours between breakfast and lunch, or lunch and dinner, you only allowed to have plain water, not even flavored. If necessary, it can be carbohydrate, but would be plain. Um, 1 apple per day is also one of the rules.
Okay,
Um,
let's go back first. Okay, 5 hours between each meal.
yeah.
So, let's talk about each little rule a little bit
All right.
because
Sorry, I was going
I
too fast.
yeah, because you know that I still do this.
Yeah.
I still do this. And we've had Christmas. We've had, okay, I think Christmas was the one day where I didn't follow the rules, but it's
Mhm.
pretty easy to follow with the 5 hours between each meal. And the reason is okay, you might like this, you might not like this, Vera, but I like to explain insulin as having to come to the rescue to glucose every time you eat,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Glucose is knocking on insulin's door and saying, come and lower come and lower
I
me." Like,
love that. Thank
do you
you for
like that?
giving. Yes.
So insulin stops coming to the door. When you keep knocking on his door, he's getting annoyed and he's like, I'm done with you.
Yeah.
And so that's when you run into problems. And that can happen if you're snacking all day. You're constantly wearing out that signal to
Mhm.
come and lower the glucose. And then what happens? Glucose sits in your blood for too long.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's when, it can trigger these metabolic diseases. Like, what do you think of that?
I love that.
You
Ah,
do?
I love that. I'm gonna use that forever now to explain it. Thank you very much.
Well, I use it because people don't realize that insulin is it's a hormone,
Yeah.
right? And so our hormones are pretty delicate. And we need to kind of, I like to go back to the olden days. Listen, you're European, my dear. I come from two parents who are born and raised on a farm, and I
Mm,
can tell you right now, they were not snacking all day long,
exactly, right? Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Like everything old needs to become new again, in my opinion. So, okay, so that's the 5 hours between. And then what was the next one you started to? Three.
Well, I guess, the 3 meals a day. Let's
Yeah.
just start over. So, number one, 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
And each meal has to have one different kind of protein. That's number
Mm,
two. That
mm.
way,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
right?
Okay. We need to break this one down
I know.
because in my certification program with Dr. Wolf Funfuck, and it's spelled, can you spell? It's FACK, everyone.
FUNFACK.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's one of the founders of the program. And he's no longer alive though, but
No,
I
yeah.
I did watch all of the certification videos and I was blown away by this. So, just to clarify, when we say 3 different proteins at each meal, that could mean, for breakfast you have an egg, and for lunch you might have some sort of legumes, and then dinner you're going to have, let's say, poultry. Now, why is this?
Just plain and simple, every protein has different combination of amino acids, and there's 8 essential amino acids that we have to provide to our body. And guess what? 3 different kinds of protein make the best out of all amino acids, pretty much.
Yeah.
So if you have to lose a lot of weight, the skin most likely will not become loose because you have all those support building blocks. And yeah, it's just obviously it gives you some variation on your meals as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I found it quite amazing when he talked about, okay, this is going to be great for people who protein load. Okay. So he was talking about, and I'm a big fan of amino acids myself for various other reasons, but it's like it causes an over acidification of the body. If you're having, let's say you're having chicken and it's a chicken parmesan, so you're adding cheese, and then you're having I don't know what other, let's say you're having a salad that has a whole bunch of nuts and seeds in it. So you're having all these different proteins, and then your body can only absorb the lowest amino acid profile of those proteins,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
then the rest that's kind of left over ends
Metabolic
up,
waste. Yeah.
it's metabolic waste, and it slows down your metabolism.
So 3 different kinds of protein per day and only one type per meal.
Yes.
Right? So yeah,
Yes.
never mixing proteins. That's a big one right there.
Yeah. I found that fascinating because in the world that I live in, people will just throw as much protein as they can in every single meal.
Yeah.
And here's the other interesting, and this is going to be fact but it's an N of one experiment. It's my experiment. I was measuring my muscle throughout all of this, right? And Vera, I was like, oh my God, is this even enough protein? Like, oh my God, like, am I going to lose muscle? My muscle is actually high. For a 53-year-old woman, it never went down, and it was high. Still,
Yeah.
and it still is, because I guess of that, I'm not that great anymore about having a separate protein at each of my 3 meals now that I'm not on it.
Because it's not something, let's just keep the 80/20 rule. So you don't have to follow those rules forever and ever,
Yeah.
right? Oh, I don't know where. oh, there we go, forever and ever, because you know that you're supposed to do it, and you can always go back to it when you say, oh, I want to go back strict in my in
Yeah.
my plan again. But of course, you're living a life, and if you're on a wedding or somewhere, you're obviously going to eat more proteins. It's not going to be a problem. But in that time when you want to achieve your goal weight and manage your ideal weight, then you want to follow those rules just to speed it up, and that way you're motivated, right? And also feel
Yes.
very energetic.
And you know what? Still, the one thing that I still do when I can, like if I'm at home, I let's say I'm going to make myself some sort of a wrap. I have
Yeah,
these wraps that are high fiber wraps, and I'm going to make some eggs. I
yeah,
still actually I might throw veggies in there in the scrambled eggs, but I still don't do cheese. And the
yeah,
reason I feel this is one of the things that a lot of people are going to be shocked about when you're adding in all of these extras. And I'm not talking about healthy vegetables.
no,
I'm talking about the condiments, the mayo, the sugary ketchup, the extra cheese that you think, "Oh, well, cheese is low carb, so why can't I add that?" Well, it makes a difference in your body's efficiency in terms of breaking all of it down. What do you think of that?
absolutely. Absolutely. And we are not counting calories at all. And by the
No.
way, we will never ever recommend any low fat products, because
Yeah.
what do they do? The industry has to push up somehow the taste. And if you have low fat products, it really doesn't taste good at all. So what do? They put in whatever sugars and carbohydrates to make it taste good again. And that's the problem right there. That's what makes people gain weight, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. So, okay, so where were we on the 8 rules? Because I know I talk a lot because I as you can see, I'm really, really passionate about it and I live and listen, I don't live in a space of severe restriction. I want to make that clear on this podcast because I have never been a diet person since I became a nutritionist. Prior to that, I did every diet under the sun, Vera.
Hmm.
And guess what? None of it worked. None of
Yeah.
it was for the long haul. None of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like just adopting these rules in your daily living is enough. If you
It,
do the program, you lose the weight and you continue to change certain lifestyle habits.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that is what it is. I mean, that's how our clients can maintenance their weight when once they are achieved it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a little bit strict in the beginning, yes, because you have to measure your food.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a different quantity. It's just the way it is. Also, different water intake, right? It just depends. But then once you are at your goal weight, then you can just follow those 8 rules.
Yeah. Okay, so let's keep going on the 8 rules.
Okay.
We mentioned I
So
where we
we
stopped.
Yeah, so we have the 3 meals per day, we have 5 hours in between, we have one type of protein per meal. We have one other rule: eat exactly the amount that is calculated for you. It's important. People tend to undereat. It's not about counting calories. We really want to give the body as much as it needs in order to lose the weight, healthy, and
Yeah.
don't just drop it and then afterwards you have the yo-yo effect. Once you eat normal, just normal again, it stores everything because it got so shocked during the diet. That's what
Yes.
really happens with the fat diets, right? So in
Yeah.
this case, our clients even say, oh my gosh, I can't eat all this is way too much, but you're really supposed to. There's a few things that you can let out, like for example our rye bread that we suggest for people who can tolerate the gluten. But other than that, our calculated amount of protein and carbs, our fruit and vegetables, are certainly to be eaten.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, why the 1 apple a day?
The 1 apple per day is pretty much, it's an apple is just the superfood. It helps to bind the toxins, and there's so much research about the apples. We have a whole section on our website about it as well if you want to read about it, but it's just a superfood. It can lower cholesterol and all those beautiful things.
Yes, it has the fiber in it to help
It
with
has
that.
fiber also, yeah.
Yeah, and I still have an apple every day.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay. And what's next?
Don't eat after 9 p.m. So you have to calculate your 5 hours. And 9 p.m. is quite late. So
Yeah,
it's,
it is.
yeah, right?
Yeah. I never ate. I mean,
I
unless
know.
I'm at some special occasion for some reason, I never eat past 9 regardless.
Yeah, yeah. And have one apple per day is one of the other rules. How many do we have? Now we got some a little bit mixed up.
Yeah, I know. We're kind of all over
Oh,
the map
drink
here.
the amount of water that's calculated is very important because obviously that's flashing out all the toxins as well.
Yeah.
When you release the fat, that's usually stored in the fatty tissue, and then you gotta drink the water. There you go. Good
And
girl.
I'm drinking my water right now,
Yes.
people. I
Yeah.
still I and as a general rule, if you're not on metabolic balance, half your body weight in ounces is a great general rule. Like, people drink way less water than they realize. So definitely do that.
Yeah. I think we almost covered them. I mean, it's nothing not doable, right? It's really easy to follow.
Yeah, let's talk about what I also want to say is that this program is not considered low carb.
Right.
And the reason I want to say this is because I used to be quote unquote keto long time ago. Okay. And what I found is it was working at first and then it wasn't. And we, I'm talking about women, we really need our carbohydrates once we reach our 40s and 50s. It's very, very important just for even our sleep. And I sleep better when I have carbohydrates at dinner. People are like, "What? You eat carbohydrates at dinner?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." Because it helps with my sleep.
It,
So this program is not low carb, but it is being carb aware.
exactly. It depends on which carbohydrates, right? There's obviously a difference. Calories are not equal calories, and carbs are not equal carbs. It's just, and fat is not equal fat. Like there's always good and bad, pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the other thing I will say is just to clients and to people who just general advice, I say avoid anything white.
Yeah.
White bread, white pasta, um, white rice,
Hmm.
all of those things. And I have made some changes since this with my own family. And, they're okay with that. So now I will use brown organic rice in my
Amazing.
stir fries instead. And if I do have, and this is something people don't even realize, if you do want to have potatoes, first off, make sure you have your protein first, right?
Right?
And then cool your potatoes. So I know this is one thing that's interesting. Why do they say boil them and boil them in the skin? Do you know why that is?
I mean, the skin obviously is like everywhere the most nutrient dense part,
Yeah,
right? So,
yeah.
but
And
probably,
there's fiber and everything in there too,
yeah,
right?
doesn't it protect something when they cook? But that's something I don't know actually. Do you know more about that?
Well, I think what it does is there's many factors here. Like it's a whole real food, right?
Right.
As
Yeah.
soon as you start to cut it up, take out the skin, it's no longer in its whole entirety. It's just like an apple. You should be eating the apple with the skin,
Right.
right? That's why you choose organic too, right? So I think that's a pretty big factor. You're eating the food in its whole form and cooking it in its whole form. And then what I do is I wait till the end of the meal when it's already gone cold because cold potatoes are a great form of resistant starch, which
There you
feeds your bacteria in the gut, right?
go.
It's like a prebiotic, right?
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah.
So that's just like these little tricks and tips that I love that it's almost like you forget about them.
Yeah.
And Let's talk about if you do want to have dessert, because the one thing that I've done is if I can do this though, Vera, I mean, sometimes if you're in a social situation, you can't do this. I will have a piece of, let's say, cheesecake or whatever, because I've had my birthday recently. I'll have it right after my meal.
Yeah, exactly. That's we also have rules for cheat meals or treat meals or whatever you want to call them. So it's basically you just you try to stay within 1 hour of eating your meal, because that way your insulin has the chance to drop again afterwards. If you eat your meal and then wait 50 minutes or 60 minutes and then have your dessert, then you most likely don't even give the insulin the chance to get out of the body. It's just gonna go down but then rises up right again when
Yeah.
you have your dessert. So the best idea is to have the dessert, even if it's a treat meal or cheat meal, like a cake or whatever, right after your main dish. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. So, you don't have to go without when you do want that occasional, but that's what this program's all about. It's all about balance,
Yeah, it's
right?
about balance and it's about a doable lifestyle. And that's why all the other diets that you cannot do this forever, like the keto or, certain things. You cannot do like fasting forever and ever. It's just not doable. But with metabolic balance, you can really just adopt to those 8 rules. As more rules you follow, as better it works. And it is really a lifestyle.
Let's talk about the phases.
Yeah.
The there's 4 phases to metabolic balance.
Yeah. So
You
phase
want to get
one.
into that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just phase one is basically just a little preparation phase where you really get your mind wrapped up around the change that is gonna happen. So you do a gentle bowel cleanse in order to avoid certain cravings, and really helps to, and also the hunger feeling, right? So you're not really feeling
Yeah.
so you really just eat pretty much veggies all day. That's one of the option. Yeah, there's other options, but that's something you can check out when you have a plan in your hand. So let's just go with the veggie day for day one after you did the bowel cleanse, and then for day two of phase one, the same thing. So the first phase is literally just 2 days long. It's a gentle cleanse, right?
Yeah. And, I will say, I agree with you that it's just having gone through it. It's not pleasant because you do need to be by a bathroom, people. It
Right.
is a little bit of a cleanse in the bowel. So, but it does help because it's almost like, remember back in the day, they used to say, shrink your stomach. This is like a very old saying. I don't think that that is physically possible,
Mm,
but it's almost like it prepares your body, just like what you
it
said.
does.
It really helps. I didn't have cravings. I so the only time I ever really felt hungry on the program was when I knew I wasn't drinking enough water.
Exactly. And that's when we ever have, an email or a call. Oh, my client is so hungry. Then is he or she drinking enough water? Oh no. Okay, then that's literally just right there. That's the solution.
Yeah, yeah. So then phase 1 is only 2 days, and then phase 2,
Phase
what
two,
can we
our
expect?
strict phase, which is a minimum of 14 days, where the clients really have to follow the food exactly and our 8 rules, and then they most likely want to stay in phase two for longer if they need to lose a little bit more, but that all can be discussed with the coach. phase
Yeah.
three yeah, phase three is a
Yeah.
little bit more easygoing. They don't have to necessarily measure their food quantities anymore, because the lifestyle change is already adopted and they can eyeball their food quantities and also implement new foods that are not on the plan together with their coach, and see how the body reacts, if there's some bloating or not, and even cravings. It's important to listen to the inner signals of the body. A craving for a good food, like a whole food, let's say for whatever, tomato or cucumber or whatever the craving might be, always gives a signal that those nutrients are good for the body. So if it's a healthy craving, then go for that first, implement that food into your diet, and see what happens, pretty much.
Yeah, you know what's kind of cool about this actually is that the one thing we didn't talk about yet is the blood work, which I'm sure we're going to get into. But in phase 2 as well, because you're only eating foods that are pretty specific, like for you,
Yeah,
you kind of get a real understanding. It's almost like an elimination diet that you put, like I've learned about as a registered holistic nutritionist. You put people on an elimination diet for health reasons, right? If
yeah,
they have some issues with if they have allergies or other symptoms, gut issues, you put them on an elimination diet. This isn't the same thing. However, you do have such a set list of foods. And then when you start reintroducing, you can go, oh, my body does not like that,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You
absolutely.
really learn about your body.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's very important to just get the starting picture of the person. You never know where you picked them up from. And that's why it's just very important to also collect a few personal information. For example, if somebody is taking thyroid medication, you might most likely don't want to give them any soy products, right? So there's quite a few things like that are collected in the database, and that will trigger once a certain condition is entered in, and the same with the blood values, right?
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
somebody, for example, has a higher glucose level, then there's most likely not the same fruit options on the plan than for somebody else, or most likely in the evening the fruit option would not be there, so there's only 2 fruits per day and not 3. So there's a million different pathways that could end up on the meal plan. Same with the food. And the good thing is we have like I said before, only low glycemic load foods in the
Yeah.
database, and that helps a lot with those 5-hour break, because the blood sugar rises slow and goes just up to a certain point, and then drops down very slow as well, and doesn't just go down and then you feel nauseous or something.
Right. Right. It's all about the stability, right?
Right.
It's about
Yeah.
stability. So speaking of blood work, in order to do this program, you have to have the blood work done. There
Mhm.
are 36 markers. I'm not going to go through what all of them are. However, you know, the big things are cholesterol, glucose, I think hemoglobin A1C is on there, isn't there?
Yeah.
So
Uh,
HbA1c, I
no,
think it's
that's not on there. No, that's not on there.
oh, it's not. There is another one for anyway, you get all of your enzymes checked as well,
Yeah.
right?
Liver. Yeah. Hmm.
So liver enzymes and everything. So really, like you were saying, all of that information goes into an algorithm developed by Metabolic Balance that nobody else has.
Yeah.
And this is why the foods are chosen unique to you to address some of these possible imbalances, but not address disease.
To choose the perfect food combination at the moment for that person to achieve the weight loss goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the other thing I want to mention just in phase 2, I know the first 2 weeks they say no added oils. So, while the food is not low fat, there's nothing low fat on there. So, for example, I think I had buffalo yogurt. I think I had, a few foods like but nothing low fat. I was not allowed for the first 2 weeks to add oils. Why is that?
There's 2 reasons. First of all, we want to speed up the lipid metabolism with that, and also give the clients the taste of the natural food again. Like, people use oil for everything. And it's literally the food that are on the plans are all, packed with amazing healthy oils, like salmon, for example, or
Yeah,
avocado, that most people will get on the plan. So it's just more or less like an educational part, but also with the lipid metabolism. There's a nice article that I don't know if we can link something underneath, maybe the
I
podcast.
can. I can in
Amazing,
the note.
yeah, amazing article about that, which we can refer to. That's very interesting to read.
Okay.
Um, and also, not everybody is eliminating the oils. If you don't want to lose weight, if you just want to maintain it or even gain it a little bit, then you keep the oils in for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, so there's phase 1 we talked about, phase 2, phase 3, and then the last phase 4 is maintenance.
Phase 4 is more lifestyle. Like that's where you really get back into your self responsibility. The coach helped the client with explaining everything, hand holding, and building those new habits. And then phase 4 is literally releasing them into the metabolic way of life, pretty much.
Yeah, and really just kind of going on your way and navigating how it's best to maintain your weight loss.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what, you know, how the thing I like about this is you're on it as long as you need to be on it, depending on your goal. So people always ask, "Oh, well, how long is this?" Well, it
Hmm.
varies by person. But what is the success rate of people who are on this? I remembered, but this was a while ago when I did the training. It was really high.
Yeah, so there's also a study that was done, and in comparison to the other programs, well, commercial programs that it was compared to, 60% of the participants were able to lose the weight that they basically wanted to, and were able to hold it for 1 year. And compared to what the usually rates are, is that very high. I know it doesn't really sound high, but it's very, very high compared to other ones that I'm not going to name now, where they had 22% of success rate. So I would say from my experience, and I've really worked with so many coaches, and I'm in touch with all the other license holders all over the world, and I know what people or clients can achieve if they really stick to the plan. For me, it's a 99% success rate, or even 100% if people really are committed, unless there is certain things that would really prevent them from the weight loss with certain medications or whatever it could be, right? Or tremendous stress, or they just don't stick to what we tell them to do. That's the only when it doesn't work. Other than that, there's most likely no failure.
Yeah. And you know what I actually love, and I'm gonna, I think we can talk a little bit about if there's any really, really well, I mentioned success stories, but I'm a success story. So, and I talked about that, right?
Yeah.
But the one thing that I absolutely love about the entire program is it's yours for life. So, here's the thing, and I can tell you this because I am in that age category where a lot of women start to gain weight at menopause. You hear about it all the time. The one thing I will say is part of that could be limiting beliefs in yourself. So one thing I say is don't come to me and say, I want to go on a diet. I want to go on metabolic balance. And the only reason I believed in becoming a certified coach is because I believe in the premise behind it. It's yours for life. It's something that you can fall back on. It's not yo-yo dieting.
Yeah.
And I can say it because I can say whatever I want. Like, you're not on and off Weight Watchers every 2 years.
Right.
That's not what this is. You're
Yeah.
not, "Oh, I'm keto. Oh, now I'm not keto. Oh, I'm keto again." Oh, no. This
Yeah.
is yours. It's a way of life. It's a way of just aging better,
Right.
Vera.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, right there. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because everybody I talk to who is in my community or a potential client or something, there are health challenges that just come up as we reach midlife
Yeah.
and beyond. And
Yeah.
one of them is weight. One
Absolutely.
of them.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to mention that, I'm here to help health practitioners, nutritionists, anybody who, is the vision in the world to help people with weight or whatever the goal is. I help them to implement the metabolic balance program into their existing praxis, or even if they are students when they start working. And we only work with really highly educated people. So it's not that anybody could become a coach. And that's very, very important, because our vision is something really, really big, and it's something light and good, right? We really want to help people. And that's, I think, very important. It's not a quick fix. It's not something you want to, get people on the plan and then get rid of them. We really want to build a community. And that's something I've done successfully, I think, with my team of coaches, which I'm really grateful for. And also the clients themselves are so amazing, supportive in our recipe group on Facebook, for example, or whenever. It's just a very nice community. It's like really like a way of life.
Yes. And I will say, because I didn't resonate with any diet. When I became an RHN, I didn't do diets for clients. I would help to address other issues and other symptoms like perimenopause symptoms and things like that. But I never gave diets, and I never gave a meal plan, not to one client since I graduated. And the reason is because I didn't believe in diets.
Yeah.
I would say, if you have an autoimmune condition, there are general rules: avoid gluten, or, eat whole real foods. But I never gave meal plans. And the only reason I decided to do this is because it's not a typical diet.
Yeah,
That's why.
that's
So,
right. Yeah.
you definitely have my recommendation there,
Thank
because
you very much.
this is coming from a nutritionist who never gave meal plans, right?
Yeah.
So I worked more on a functional perspective versus here's a diet, go follow it, go fall off of it, like,
I
which
mean,
is what.
everybody must eat, right? So it most likely good to know what to eat.
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, so
Yeah. No, this has been a great discussion. And I will put in the show notes. Vera, what's the best way to get in touch with you? Metabolic Balance. What's the website?
you can, yeah, it's www.metabolic-balance.ca, or you can do .com, depending. Like, there you can pick your country. There's, like I said, 35 countries and 16 languages. So there's really, yeah, it's the plan is there for everybody worldwide. Yeah, but Instagram, Facebook, of course, all those common social media challenges channels.